Most law firms have major issues with their trust accounts and they don't even know it. Welcome to the Lawyer Millionaire, helping law firm owners grow their businesses and their wealth. I'm your host, Darren Wirtz. Most law firm owners aren't trained to run a business, and that's okay. Yet every day you're expected to wear the CEO hat. Poor trust accounting, unreliable financial data, and low collections aren't just annoying, they're dangerous. In this episode, we'll unpack the financial and operational systems that you need to scale with confidence. My guest today is Peggy Grinke, co-founder of CPN Legal. With decades of experience in legal operations and law firm bookkeeping, she's helped over 400 firms clean up their books, implement better processes, and grow sustainably.
We are on a mission to help lawyers and law firm owners maximize wealth and achieve financial independence. Welcome to the Lawyer Millionaire with Darren Wirtz from Wirtz Financial Services.
All right, we're here with Peggy Grinke today. Peggy, it's great to have you on the show.
Thank you, Darren. It's nice to be here, and it's nice to know that you're a Cincinnati guy. That doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you and I go way back. Met you pre-COVID.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
now a marker in history for us. Yeah. So, before we get into, all of the great stuff that you have to share, you've been working with law firm owners for a long time, and you have a lot of wisdom around helping them operate better and more efficiently. Let's start with a little bit about your journey. So could you just share with us a little bit about how you got into the legal world and how CPN Legal came to be?
Sure. Actually, I started my career in IT as an IT consultant, which led me oddly enough, into the direction of getting involved at the Cincinnati Bar Association. They were looking for a database programmer, help them with their database, and a director of membership. And that's where I landed in the world of lawyers, was at the Cincinnati Bar Association, working as their director of membership. And in that role, I really got involved with working with the solo small firm committee and really mentoring that group along, and got attached to them really quickly. And I helped teach at the UC Law School, the business of law. And from there, I went and left that role, which was still probably one of my favorite jobs ever. And I went and managed a law firm for about 10 years, more of a mid-sized law firm. And during that, while I was managing that law firm, I continued to meet with lawyers for coffee and lunch and mentoring them on starting up their law firm practice. And at the time, Clio was just being born. The whole idea of taking your law practice to the cloud, and my background in IT kind of melded well with that, right? So I was helping law firms set up virtual law practices, basically, right?
Wow.
Eventually, I was dipping my toe enough into that water, that pond of helping lawyers while I was still managing law firms. I eventually broke loose and started CPN Legal, and I was doing it by myself, wearing many hats, which is something I did not preach to my lawyers. I always preached, find your niche practice and people will come. I took my own advice, and my husband, whose background was in finance, he joined me at CPN Legal, and we decided to really hone in on the business of bookkeeping for law firms with the focus on Clio software and the integration with QuickBooks Online and building a business around that niche area. And that's what has taken off, and that's what we did.
Yeah, what a great story. We're in the right place at the right time there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did. It took off in many different ways, but we now have a team of 32 employees up here in Cincinnati, and we continue to grow rapidly.
And you must be doing something right, because your growth really has been incredible. I've been witnessing that over the last several years, so kudos to you. Let's talk about some of the bottlenecks, right? What are some of the biggest bottlenecks that you see in how law firms manage their operations?
Yeah, that's a great question. We see a lot of that. So when law firms come to us, they're coming to us for a reason. There's usually a pain point, right, when they're coming to us. There's actually two reasons. They're coming to us because they're brand new and they're really smart, and they're coming to us before they experience any pain, and we're getting them started off on the right foot. Or they're coming to us because they have experienced some pain points in their business. And these pain points have happened, these financial issues that they find themselves in have happened for a number of reasons. One of the reasons is because they have denied themselves using financial software to run their business, right? And they insist on running their business on paper, which Darren, you can't run a business on paper and have good data to make financial decisions. You know, my background's in data, right? I'm a database program. I'm data driven, right? In order to make business decisions, you have to have good data. So that's one of the first things we see is they come to us running their business on paper, unreconciled accounts, inaccurate data, right? The other thing that they come to us with financial blunders is the mismanagement of their trust accounts. You work with lawyers. You understand the ethics behind them managing their trust funds. We have over 400 clients that we work with. I think I can count on one hand the number of that have come to us with accurate trust accounts. Okay.
Really?
So when we onboard a client, the first thing we do is a trust account analysis, and we fix it right away. All right. So that's, and I take that very passionately because of my experience at the Cincinnati Bar Association.
Yeah.
The other thing is they don't have the mindset or the understanding as to how to grow their business. And I want to help them. That's what I'm passionate about. That's what brings me joy to work with somebody. So I want to get them into that mindset. And they don't have that when they come to us. They don't have the ability to grow because they haven't created a budget. They haven't created a plan. So that we want to bring that to them when they come to us because they don't have it with them. The other thing two more things, and I'll leave this topic. But the other one, and we found this during COVID, Darren. They came to us because all of a sudden to get one of the loans, right, they needed financial reports, right? All right, they had to submit P&Ls and balance sheets, so they didn't have any, right? So they were coming to us to set this all up, which we did, but they didn't have lines of credits. Nobody saw the importance of getting a line of credit or having an established relationship with their banker, right?
Yeah.
So that's something that we preach at the act. If I'm talking to a new lawyer setting up their business, one of the first things we talk about is get a business relationship with your banker and I don't care if you may never need that line of credit, but get it now, okay, and have it available because you never know when you might need it. That to me, that's a financial blunder and oversight that they have. The last thing I'll mention that is a big financial blunder is that the solo small firms tend to cheap out, and they decide to use their paralegal to be their bookkeeper. The worst thing ever they could do, right? First of all, they're not equipped to be a bookkeeper. They don't understand the ins and outs of accounting for law firms. And you're exposing your business to someone that really shouldn't see that side of your business, right?
Yeah.
So that's my summary of the blunders we see.
Those are really great. I'm surprised by the frequency of finding issues with the trust accounts. It seems to be a really, really common thing and really serious for law firm owners.
I'll tell you, Darren, the surprising part is the majority of them don't know that they have problems with their trust account.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Because they have a bookkeeper that they've been entrusting doing things, and they're not using the QuickBooks tool. I don't know, we're big QuickBooks users, right? And we're Clio users, and we use a lot of the integration tools available with these products, which helps us manage the trust management. Well, they're working with bookkeepers that don't understand trust management, okay? And a lot of times they're working with accountants that don't understand trust liability accounts. And the accountants are trying to zero out the liability accounts at the end of the year. And we're like, what are you doing? You can't zero that account out. So that's part of the problem is they haven't looked at it, and they're entrusting somebody to do something and it hasn't been right. And that's a problem in itself because ethically, if you read the ethics rules, a lawyer has to sign off on the trust reconciliation every month.
Yeah.
And California just came out with really strict laws about their trust after all that blunder happened a couple of years ago. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I certainly share your passion in helping law firm owners, solo and small firm owners grow their business. I often find that that's sometimes more exciting than the financial planning work that we also do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one of those areas is, helping law firm owners identify KPIs for themselves. I'm curious, what are some of your favorite KPIs that law firm owners really should be tracking regularly to stay on top of their business?
Great question. I have about 6 of them. And
Okay.
I'll tell you that when we design our KPI reports for our lawyers, it becomes very specific to their business. Okay, what's important to them to grow their business, which means they had to have put some thought into it, right, Darren? And
Right.
the other thing is that they have to have good data, Darren. We can't do KPIs without having good data. Okay, you know that. So we have to really look at what we have available to build the KPI reports out off of, right? But a couple things I'm going to start with is people don't think of a cash flow report as a KPI, but I do. Okay, we're really passionate about doing weekly cash flow reports, especially with new startups and as they grow. The thing about the cash flow report is it forces the business owner to look at their business every week. Okay, what's our revenue? What's our expenses? Am I protecting myself for upcoming expenses? Am I going to be able to afford that payroll that's coming up or the rent? Am I going to have any shortcomings? Because in our cash flow analysis that we do, we actually look at what billings are going to happen. What's my WIP? What's going to be? What's my upcoming revenue that's going to happen? What's my AR that's going to happen? What trust money is available to pull out of trust during that billing cycle? So we account for a lot of things that are coming in. What's my lockup? How's that going to affect things? So I use that cash flow analysis as part of our KPIs because it's going to affect. It's a cash business, right? And and I will tell you that it's the simplest business you'll ever have. Law firm businesses are so simple. There's no, and they tend to overcomplicate things, right? It's a simple business. So we talk a lot about that. The other thing that we like to look at is on the P&L, we really like to look at ratios, okay? We like to look at the ratio of your expenses to revenue to begin with, but we really like to focus on breaking out what is your percent of payroll, what's your spend on payroll versus your revenue, right? What's your spend on marketing versus revenue? Because if you're not spending on marketing, you're never going to make money. And I'm really passionate about that. All right. If your spend on marketing is less than 1% and you're not growing, there's a reason why you're not growing. Okay. So we do a lot of P&L analysis based on percent of income to see where you're heavy at on your percent of income, right? And if you've got too much left over, let's invest some of that income in somewhere where you can grow, right?
Yeah.
So let's look at that. The other thing that we'll look a lot at is we'll put together some graphs about how many new cases are you getting a month, right? And what's the value of those cases. So we look a lot at what's your monthly nut, like what's your fixed expenses. How much money do you have to bring in a month to cover your fixed expenses? And anything over top of that is cream on the coffee, right? So how many cases do you have to bring in a month to cover your monthly nut? So we like to track what's those number of cases that have to come in, what's the average value of those cases, right? And to get that, we need good data, right? So we track that and we build the graphs out to kind of track that. The other thing we do also track is our return on investment on marketing. So if we're really doing a good job at tracking marketing spend and leads and conversion of leads in our database, we can actually get a good return on investment, return on investment number for our KPI reporting, right? And knowing what's coming up. The last one that we do really look at is utilization. And this is what drives the billing of a client, of the law firm, right? The revenue of the law firm. What's your utilization rate? And at CPN Legal, we bill by the hour. We're just like a law firm. we monitor utilization rates really closely. Okay. And if we see a dip in utilization rate, I know in 2 months it's going to affect my revenue, right? So you've got to be tracking your utilization rates by attorney and finding out where you're having issues and really tackle those issues head on. Don't sweep them under the carpet. All right. Or they're not going to go away by sweeping them under the carpet, but you've got to track those utilizations and look at your realization rates for billing and collection. So in the long run, that's the KPIs that we like to track.
What a great list. And if these are foreign to you, maybe you need some help on some of these. I mean, listening to this list, right, this might feel a little bit daunting, but to have somebody put this together for you and compile it and then have it at the ready, that is super, super powerful.
I always like to talk to lawyers about think about how you're going to make money, right? When it's a simple business, but at the same time, it's a hard business because they're a lawyer and they're a business owner, right? They're wearing two hats all the time. They're wearing two hats, right? So they got to think about being the lawyer, but they also got to think about how am I going to make money, right? And so it's a simple math model. You got to bill your hours. You got to think about your billing rate, how many hours you're going to bill, what's your profit on that, what your expense is going to be. You can fluctuate your billing rate and play around with those numbers until you get what you want till you get to your profit number you want, right? But then you got to look at your collection realization rates and your billing realization rates, right? How much of the billing is actually going to show up on the bill? Are you writing stuff off before you actually put it on a bill, which to me is the biggest no-no ever. That's telling me that you're not trusting your own work, right? If you're writing down billing times before you even let the client see the invoice, that tells me like you don't even trust what you're doing. That's another problem you got to deal with. That's another problem. Let the client see the bill and let them make the decision about the quality of the work, right? It might have been valuable to them, right? So think about that. And if you're having problems with collections, that might be a problem because of a client service level problem. It might go deeper, right? So there's a lot going on in your business, and it all starts with client service. I could go on a whole other topic about that, but the client and you run a professional services business, you got to start with the client first. And if you're taking care of the client, they'll take care of you, and your collections problems will go away. But so you got to think about how you're going to make money.
Yeah, collections is an area that a lot of law firms actually struggle with. And some of the fixes are simple, but what are some of your top tips on improving collection rates?
Okay, the first thing we do is when someone comes to us, anything that's over 150 days, we write off. It's just noise. It's a distraction and it's noise. If you haven't collected it now, you're not going to collect it, right? Would you agree? I mean, it just makes you sad. It makes you sad, right? So let's just get rid of that. If they actually come back and they want to do more work with you, then you can go back and collect it, right? But let's get that off the books and let's deal with the low-hanging fruit that you really can collect, right? And at that point, the biggest thing that they can do wrong is have the lawyer try to collect it. The lawyer should never do collections. If anything should be outsourced or given to an office manager or a legal assistant, it should be the collections. Okay. And the lawyer will fight me on this tooth and nail. And I'm like, I don't care. You should not be involved in this discussion. All right.
Why is that? Can you break that down for us?
They get too personal. They want to defend themselves. You got to take the personal. It's not personal. It's business now. And if you give it to somebody else to have a talk about it, they can take the personal side out of it. Okay. And have a different type of discussion about it. Okay. And then I can have a discussion with the client that says, well, this type of work was done. I know, are you not happy with it? Well, let me go back to the lawyer and talk about that. Okay. And then I can have it say, hey, I talked to the lawyer. How about, he said he would give a 20% discount on that. Would that make you happy? But be the, good cop, bad cop. We used to own a bar. Okay. And my husband and I would play good cop, bad cop. Let me be the good cop. Okay. and then the lawyer can be the bad cop, or vice versa. I can be the bad cop, the lawyer can be the good cop. So that's why that's important. But so on the collection side, do that, right? And on the other thing on the collection side, get retainers up front. And this is another topic on billing. Our most profitable law firms bill twice a month. Okay. First of all, they get retainers up front if they're hourly. Even the flat fee guys get retainers up front. Okay. Get retainers up front. Bill twice a month. We do invoicing for our clients, a lot of our clients, and then replenish those retainers. All right. Then you're never hounding for AR. And think about the amount of energy and time and space is wasted on collecting AR. And it's such a negative conversation, right, to have about AR. It's such a negative topic. It just drains everybody, the firm and everything. So avoid it up front by retainers, replenishments, regular billing. And the other nice thing about billing twice a month is your clients are getting less sticker shock, right? Mm-hmm. And you're communicating with them more regularly.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you one last tip about AR. And we're seeing a trend on this a lot because a lot of the law practice management softwares are building this into their systems more, is collecting credit cards up front. Okay. And now lawyers ethically aren't allowed to store credit cards because they're not. So the systems now are allowing you to store the credit cards without the lawyers ever seeing the credit card information, right? So like even CPM Legal, when we engage with somebody, we collect credit card up front. So if somebody goes 30 days past due, we charge that credit card. And it's in our fee agreement. Okay. Mm-hmm. So a lot of our lawyers now are adding that to their fee agreement. When they take on a new client, get that original retainer, they're storing that credit card information for their fee agreement to be used when the client goes past due. So there's a lot of things and then you got payment plan options now too, right? So there's a lot of proactive things you can do now to kind of eliminate those AR issues.
I love that. That's a great idea. In fact, we do the same thing. We have a system that we use. The clients input their credit card information. We never see it because in the financial planner world, there's a rule about custody, and you have to avoid custody by not having access to the details. And so we have a special program that's regulator friendly, that enables us to be able to do that. And I guess before all of that, accepting credit cards in the first place, because a lot of law firms still want a check payment, but you got to make it easy for people to pay.
You got, and it's funny, you're in a business that's highly regulated, right?
Yes.
So think about lawyers, you guys are more regulated, right? And to your point, you've got to make it easy to pay. So now, like with Clio, now you can send out bills via text. So now their invoices are showing up in text. You know how easy it is to click here and pay, Apple Pay, Google Pay, so many different ways to pay. It's lovely, right? Yeah. So got to make it easy.
Fantastic. Great tips. Thank you for those, Peggy. We've got a few questions left here. I want to get your thoughts on, the mindset shift that law firm owners need to make. What is your advice for law firm owners trying to shift from lawyer mode to CEO mode?
I'll tell you a story to help frame this, okay? And it happened to our business. So you notice how fast we're growing, right? When I started the business, we were working out of the house, my husband and myself. And we would work into the evening. And at one point, my husband would look across the desk and say, Peggy, you really need to get an office. And I was so against it. I'm like, no, this is fine. We're fine. And he keeps saying, no, we need to get an office. And I finally said, okay, we'll get an office. So we moved up the street here in Westchester and opened up an office. It was 2 or 3 months later, opening up that office, we started growing. And we were knocking down walls. We were hiring and we were getting more clients. And I'll tell you what happened. It was a mind shift in my mind. Okay, I went from working at home to this little home business to understanding that I had a real business to run, right? So for the lawyers, that mind shift happens when you have to understand that you have a real business to run. And that happens when they remove themselves a little bit, right? And when they say, oh, I have to hire that first employee, get out of that house, open up a real office, treat yourself as a business, and you'll start seeing things change in your own mind. All right. Get your financials together. Get a financial package together. A lot of times they just don't treat themselves as a business. It's like a sidekick. Does that make sense? So they have, it's like, you have to get that mind shift change by making a drastic change in how you're thinking about your business. And that to like build it, they will come. It's true. I don't know what else, I don't know how everybody explain it, but it does happen.
You're so right about that. Bringing on team members, you kind of naturally grow. You kind of have to have a little bit of faith, but you grow the capacity, and the business will grow itself. Yeah,
I like that. You have the faith. You have to have the faith. One of the work you have to. I had down here. You got to learn how to take calculated risks, right? Sometimes, because to grow, you have to learn to take calculated risks, and you got to learn when it's time to hire. Right. And that's so scary for lawyers, right?
Yeah.
Especially if they don't have any finances to look at. They don't know because they'll come to me and say, can I hire? And I'm like, oh, let's look at your finances. Let's project. Let's see what's going to impact it's going to have. What do we have to change in order to cover this person? But they also have to be willing to pivot. Okay. So they have to be able to be flexible in their decision making and realize that they sometimes made a bad decision. So there's two things. They have to be able to take calculated risks, but they have to be willing to pivot.
I love that. Thank you for that reminder. Yeah, that's so important on the other side. Yeah. Realizing when what you're doing isn't quite working, and we need to make a change.
Yeah, we do that a lot here.
Yeah, and we did that in our business, and one of the books that helped me kind of make that shift into being more of a business owner was the book Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. I'm curious if you've read it.
No, I haven't. No.
Okay. No. I think you'd really enjoy it. That's actually the book we're reading currently in our book club, which any of you are welcome to join if you're listening to the show. So my last question to you, Peggy, along those lines, most business owners have read a number of books. I'm curious if there's a book you're currently reading that you're really enjoying, or maybe a book that you did read that was really helpful to you in growing your business.
I have a couple. Get a Grip. It was a nice one I enjoy reading. That's part of the Traction series. We don't do EOS system, but I'm intrigued by it, and I like a lot of the stuff about it. The one I'm reading now is 10 Times is Better Than 2 Times.
Oh, yeah.
By Dan Shepherd. I just started reading that one, too. There's another one I read about processes, and of course I'm drawing a complete blank on it. But it was a really good one that taught us a lot about we're big on processes here. We have by the way, lawyers, the only way you're going to grow is if you learn to put processes in place. You can't grow until you have documented processes, and I'm passionate about that too. But I wish I could name the name of the book, but I can't. But there was a good book about creating processes and the tools to use to create those products. Like there's a product called Whale that we use to do stuff, to create processes with. We use Slack for some things. We use Trello for something. You got to find the right tool to use for your business to make things work well. Yeah.
Is there anything else that you'd like to share with our audience before we go?
The only other thing that I would stress is if you're a lawyer running a business, please take the time to think about your law firm as a business and be mindful of your finances, because I want you to be successful. I truly want every law firm to succeed, and that's our tagline at CPN Legal.
I love that, Peggy. You and I share that same passion, and I love it. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
All right. Thanks, Darren.
All right. Well, a big thank you to Peggy Grinke for joining us today. You can learn more about her and all the great work she's doing at CPN Legal by visiting cpn-legal.com. Be sure to check the show notes for all the links and the resources that we discussed. So here's my challenge to you today, listener. Stop operating on instincts alone and start building a business on real financial data. Get those KPIs in place. As law firm owners, We're not just practicing law, we're building businesses that create freedom, impact, and long-term wealth. At The Lawyer Millionaire, we help you design a financial plan that supports your business growth, cash flow, and your future exit strategy. If you're tired of guessing your way through, we've got you covered. You can learn more about us at our website, lawyermillionaire.com, and there you can also download the first chapter of my book for free, The Lawyer Millionaire. And don't forget, you're invited to join our free book club for law firm owners. Check the show notes for the link. Who is the Lawyer Millionaire? It's you, my friend. Own it and live it. I'm your host, Darren Wirtz. Thanks for joining me. See you next time.
Thank you for listening to The Lawyer Millionaire. Click the follow button below to be notified when new episodes become available. This content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. This content is not intended to represent investing or tax advice. Always seek the advice of a qualified investment or tax advisor with any questions you may have regarding your own financial circumstances.